Hi, I'm Sarah Mazzilli. I'm a postdoc at Boston University Medical School.
Hi, I'm Gary McDowell. I'm a postdoc at Tufts University.
I'm Kristin Krukenberg. I'm a postdoc at Harvard Medical School.
And I'm Jessica Polka, also a postdoc at Harvard Medical School. We're all part of an organization that started off as a grassroots informal group of postdocs interested in the structure of the scientific enterprise. And a lot of grad students and postdocs have conversations about the workforce, funding issues around the proverbial water cooler, at beer hour or online. We wanted to create a forum for early career researchers to get their voices out to the public.
So when we started on this, there was a lot of conversation going on at higher levels of the scientific enterprise from many senior scientists in terms of problems they saw with the way science is structured or the way science is being done. And we really felt there was a need for voices from junior, so early career researchers to get involved in this conversation. And so we wanted to find ways in which we could really get postdocs, graduate students, other early career researchers involved in these conversations.
We can also perceive a change in the joy of performing science, and a lot of our motivation too is trying to make the system more efficient and productive, that people are happier and able to do science in a more productive environment.
Right, and my motivation in helping to organize the future of research was really to help educate early career scientists about what is already out there and what is known, and also to understand myself so that we can better work as a group to advocate for shaping the future of research.
So all of this started with some conversations as part of the Harvard Medical School Postdoc Forum. So I was running this as a sort of way for postdocs to get together, talk with one another about both their science and other issues going on in science that they were interested in. We had a discussion about a paper that came out from Alberts, Kirshner, Tillman, and Varmus, and about some of the problems they raised in terms of what they thought was wrong with biomedical research. And one thing we realized is that postdocs particularly were really interested in these areas of conversation and were really invested in talking about some of these ideas and having ideas of their own. So some of it was their own frustration with some of the hurdles and problems they'd faced in the lab, but as well as really wanting to have a voice in making a change in the structure of science and how science was being done. And so from this, we moved to talking to a group in Boston that's now known as the Boston Postdoc Association. So this is postdocs from many institutions around Boston. So we approached this group with the idea of, maybe we can come together as a group of postdocs from around Boston to put together a symposium about some of these issues that were brought up in this paper that I mentioned, as well as other papers. And so we came together with this really great group of people. So I think this worked really well because we had postdocs from many different institutions with different backgrounds, different interests, different skill sets. And so having this diverse set of people who often we had very different ideas about things, but we were able to talk about them and come to sort of find consensus among our different opinions and find ways at which we could sort of move forward in a productive fashion. And so using this kind of energy and motivation to really make a difference in science and really do what we could to try to make science a better place and a more productive place for everyone. And so this led to a symposium that we held in Boston last October.
That's right. It was a 2-day symposium that comprised of two components. The first was talks from experts who had thought a lot about the structure of the enterprise and funding and all these issues and diversity that we're really concerned about. So we opened with discussion forums from these sort of leaders and people who'd been involved previously. And then in the second day, we hosted interactive workshops for all the participants as well as the speakers. And the format of these workshops was intended to get voices from every single participant. So rather than have a session where one person who might be more vocal can kind of take over a room, we used Post-it notes and invited participants to write down their responses to our prompts on the wall. And then we went through and categorized them, found commonalities, identified themes, and ultimately the points we thought were most important. The workshops were divided into four groups. We had issues of the structure of the workforce, that is, how people move through their scientific career from grad school to postdoc to perhaps senior scientist or PI and into industry. The next was the funding structure. So how is it that grants are awarded? What are the types of science that is encouraged by different types of funding. Next, the mechanisms of training. What do the training programs in our academic system actually train people to do, and what should they train people to do? And finally, incentives. What are the incentives that drive the way science is done? Is the science that we're getting done the most creative and reproducible, or is it perhaps, are we distracted by chasing impact factors or other requirements that may not necessarily achieve these aims? And so we began each of these workshops by asking participants to identify problems that they see in the current system, and then we grouped those into categories and asked them to identify solutions.
And so part of this was we really wanted to get past just thinking about the problem. So it's really easy to get together, talk about all the things we hate and don't like and complain, but we really wanted to get past that and try to find productive ways that we could start coming up with ideas of what we'd like to see change in the system. So what would our ideal system be, and how can we maybe achieve that? And so in this case, we're focusing a bit on postdocs and early career researchers, but we really wanted to also involve other stakeholders. So for the speakers and the panelists, we had focused not just on members of academia, but we'd also gotten members of industry, people who specialized in economics or other fields to come together to really give us hopefully a broader view of the scientific system as it is, and to help give us sort of a jumping off point to think of what are some of the ideas we might have about how to move forward and make science sort of the ideal that we'd all like to have.
So to add our voices to the conversation, we wanted to make sure that we had a productive and reasoned response to the conversation that's happening and to the opinions that have come forth from senior scientists. And so we took all of the ideas and solutions that were proposed in the various workshops in the symposium, and we decided to write up a white paper and try to find consensus recommendations that would add to the voice that we wanted to put forward from junior researchers. So we came up with three main conclusions through the white paper. And the first one was talking about stability in funding and investment in early career researchers. So there's a lot of variation in funding in the current political climate and in the way that funding is structured. And in particular, we feel there should be some accountability in how the funding of early career researchers is made more accountable. We also looked at connectivity amongst young researchers and also between different levels of research. So we feel that postdocs and grad students should come together and talk about these issues and get together in advocacy, and we'll talk more about that in our next video. And we also feel that these young researchers should also communicate with researchers younger than them and also with senior researchers, so that there's a conversation that's productive amongst all levels of the academic infrastructure. And we also feel that this can be achieved too by researchers coming together within their scientific societies, talking about their science, but also talking about the issues that affect the communities as well. And the third conclusion that we drew was that there needs to be more transparency in the sort of data that we are collecting about early career researchers and about the academic workforce and infrastructure as a whole. And we feel that there should be a lot more collection of career outcomes data for early career researchers from graduate programs and postdoctoral research programs, and that data should then be made publicly available from each institution so that we can see where people are ending up with their training, what kind of careers people are going into, what kind of employment they are ending up in, and whether those kinds of careers are beneficial to PhD holders. So we produced this white paper and published it in F1000 Research, and we were very pleasantly surprised with the response that we had from the academic community. There was a very serious interest in the voice that we were trying to present, and we have had our opinions being sought by a lot of different stakeholders and from a lot of different areas of science. And we really feel that that productivity, that voice that we were able to give, should be continued on further and connecting with that, talking about some of the issues of data collection that I mentioned before.
So why should you care? I think one thing is that this has been a discussion, so talks about the structure of the workforce and the way science has been being done. These discussions have been going on for a long time, and especially in terms of postdocs and the position they play in the scientific workforce. So the National Academies had their first report on the postdocs in the 1960s, and they've produced a number of reports since then. And so, they've brought up sort of many of the issues facing postdocs, how postdocs, what part they play in the larger scientific workforce, and how maybe some of these aspects should be changed, or how we should maybe do some of this differently in the future. And though this may seem like a truly daunting task to change the way science is done, I think it's really important that we all get involved in this discussion.
Yeah, we have sort of three responses to people who might say the problems are too big, they're too great, we can't tackle them. The first is that even though they are really challenging, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't address them. There's many huge problems with the world, and I think we'd all be in pretty bad shape if no one wanted to tackle them. Number two, we believe that this is a pretty good time to do this. With investment from the NIH in terms of new BEST awards, the advisory committee to the directors, workforce report, and attention from prominent scientists like the others you'll be hearing about in this video series, we feel the time is really right to take action. And third, we feel that even though these issues are ones that as early career researchers we might feel personally very acutely, our real motivation for doing this is for the scientific future that we want to inhabit. So we want a world where science is efficient, productive, creative, reproducible, and to create this, we really need to focus on ways we can make science more efficient and productive for all players. And as a public enterprise, we believe that we kind of owe this to all Americans who are invested in this, not just ourselves.
And part of really making science the best that it could be and the most productive for this country is creating a science that's attractive to young people who want to then take part in the scientific workforce and want to come be a part of it and to really work and be creative towards making some of those big discoveries that could, make a big difference. And so we really want to attract both a talented as well as a really diverse workforce, and not only attract them, but also retain them so that they want to stay in science and they want to keep at it and keep working on those discoveries. And so I think it's really important that everyone gets involved, and I think anyone can get involved at any levels. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about how you can get involved.
Today we're going to talk a little bit more about who it is that we want to get involved. And the who is really anybody. Yes, we are early career scientists, postdocs at the moment, but we want to engage anyone from high school students, the community, right up through senior scientists. And there's many ways that you can get involved. Yes, you can get directly involved with the symposium itself and the different aspects of the symposium and the symposiums that are going to take place throughout the country, but you can also just get involved in communicating and getting the information out there and advocating for many of the things that you've heard about today. And so Gary's going to tell us a little bit more about how you can get involved.
Yeah, so obviously you can get involved by looking at our website and helping us out. We all always appreciate having more people in the community come together and help us. And on the website you can also find information about the various meetings that are happening in different parts of the country that you could get involved with. But you can also get involved in so many other ways. There are things like commenting on papers that are produced, writing responses, writing blog posts in response to various things. You can also get involved in discussions at your institutions with your scientific societies, and basically trying to find any avenue for getting involved and getting the voice of early career researchers heard, to participate fully and help add new ideas and discussions into the general conversation. It's important that we contribute our voice to try and add to a similar level as the senior academics who are discussing this. There's been a trend in recent meetings discussing this that have gone from having only senior scientists participate to inclusion of more postdocs and grad students within the meetings and the conversations. but we feel it's very important that our voice is not distinguished from the voice of senior scientists, and some meetings have made protected time for postdoc and grad student ideas, which is great, allowing our community to have real protected time in the conversation. But it also can mean that those ideas might be set aside and distinguished from the ideas of senior scientists. And so some other meetings have included grad students and postdocs, but not distinguished the ideas coming from them as the ideas coming from the senior community. And we should also try to make sure that we include not just the academic research community, but again, the people in industry and people in all forms of science careers, as well as including the public within that discussion. And the more avenues that we find to try and get involved with that and to make ourselves heard, the better, hopefully, that we can make the scientific endeavour. And so we look forward to hopefully participating with you in the future. And thanks for watching.